Good evening, Malaysia and followers from around the world. Tonight, we have with us Izzana Salleh, the co-founder of the international NGO called Project Girls for Girls. She's also a director at the Talent Corps Malaysia. Izzana has a master's degree in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School, a master's in business administration from Imperial College in UK, as well as a bachelor's in biotechnology from Cal Poly Pomona in USA. Her professional experience lies in management, public policy, and startups. She finds true fulfillment in empowering young girls to see their true potential. So welcome on board, Izzana. Happy International Women's Day. And Izzana, maybe we can start off by you telling us about your NGO, Girls for Girls.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dato, and your team for having me today. Thank you for the wish, and I express the same for your team as well. So a little bit about Project Girls for Girls. We are a not-for-profit entity that's registered in the United States, and we have 23 member countries at the moment. Okay. We are very much focused on helping young women and girls achieve the vision, courage, and skills to help propel them towards leadership. And leadership in the sense could be public leadership, it could be any form of leadership. There's many kinds, right?
Yeah. Izzana, you co-founded this NGO. How did this came about? And that was it that the idea came about when you were in USA?
Actually, yes. It's a very interesting and organic way of developing. In all honesty, it happened over a cup of coffee between about 9 girlfriends in between our class during our master's program. And all of us were all very passionate about women empowerment, about the betterment of women in our countries. So we asked each other a very simple question, what are the obstacles or what are the challenges of women in our respective countries? And it turns out that regardless which country we were from, whether it was Iceland or United States at that time, here, Malaysia, Uganda, India, whatever it was always women in leadership issue. Malaysia, obviously political leadership, very poor numbers. In Iceland, they're very strong with public service, but they were very low in numbers when it came to entrepreneurship. So there was always something, and we very much, all of us very much stand for the saying, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? So we decided, we said, what can we do? We're not keen on pointing fingers and saying government's not doing enough. What are we doing about it? We have hands, we have thoughts and the will, capacity to work. So what can we do? And therefore we decided, let's start our own mentorship circles, because we understood that based on the research we were doing at that time, young women and girls didn't step up into leadership for 3 reasons. One was a confidence issue. Another was they felt they lacked technical skills, like negotiations and communications. Yep. And another was they felt they didn't have enough support system. A tribe of people behind you saying, yes, you can. So we created Project Girls for Girls to serve this purpose and to increase the pipeline. And today we're thankfully in 23 countries in varying levels of activity, but 23 countries nonetheless.
So in these 23 countries, the variations, the problems will be quite different, but at the end of the day, the approach should be similar in that sense that some of the disadvantages and challenges would be similar, although that each country will have that kind of different problems. Now, I'd like to draw the attention, of course, to Malaysia, where many of our followers are tonight. And in Malaysia, as far as Girls for Girls are concerned, when we talk about the lack of confidence, the lack of leadership qualities, the lack of opportunities, the lack of negotiation skills. Okay, in Malaysia, what will be your target group, and what are the what do you call it, the organizations that you have approached?
Sure. So when we started out, our main audience, our main target interest was actually university students, preferably within the last 2 years before graduation, because they're at the cusp of entering into the real world, the adult world of applying for your first job, negotiating for your first salary. And that first salary is so important because
Mhm.
that essentially will determine how
Yes.
much you can negotiate in the future and your base amount, right? But so we've partnered with universities. That was our first year. But as we got along and we gained a slightly more a bigger network, we had more NGOs actually coming up to us and saying, let's partner together. And also some corporates asking, let's partner together. This is a very male-dominated environment. So even though these are slightly different and we could go from public university to private university to NGO, very, very different backgrounds, the topic that we speak about is about leadership. It's a very high
Mhm.
level
Yes.
leadership. And it's about bringing forth the sense of confidence, some guidance in that sense. So it's not a very technical topic, as
Yeah.
in we're not talking about actuarial science. That's a very niche topic, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
leadership. I could be in an NGO. I could be in government service. I could be running my own business. The same concepts can be applied because it's about the woman stepping into her own leadership.
Correct.
So where this and when we prepared the content with our professors at the Kennedy School, we made sure that it was generic enough such that it could apply across the many countries and the many languages we had to translate into,
Yeah.
but also be able to produce sufficient results such that when the woman or girl leaves the program, they can say, I have grown, because
Yes.
we do benchmark analysis and we also do post-program analysis.
Yeah, I think we can see that these soft skills are really essential for anyone coming into the job market. And these are skills, I presume, at least during my time, it was the never taught. And those in the urban areas will obviously have a certain exposure and advantage. But most of our local universities, most of the undergraduates come from rural area or semi-rural area. And they always lack that exposure. And you, I mean, you are a public speaker. You have taken part in forums. You know that when we open the questions to the floor, we say, hey, do you have any questions? Please raise your hands. You know that no one raises their hand, and that they only come forward to you, they crowd around you when
That's
the
it.
yeah, talk is over. and
Yeah.
there's never enough time, because once you finish your talk, you actually want to leave the place, but you are stuck there for at least 20 minutes or more, and you say, let's catch up, and we all know that we are guilty of that. We never catch up, okay, because that things move on, but the opportunity is lost because that nobody wants to speak up. Do you think it's because that in our culture, speaking up is not something that we're supposed to do, because in whether it's a Chinese or a Malay or Indian culture, it's a very Asian thing that let the adults speak up, let the older people speak up, you keep your views to yourself. It's not something that this kind of values, in America or in UK, people actually speak up. And even in university where marks are given for participating in tutorials, there are actually our local graduates who rather forego the 20% marks because they just do not want to express themselves, or they just do not want to do not know how to express themselves. So girls for girls really is of great help. Now, in your opinion, why do we have this cultural baggage?
So I'd like to actually start by saying that I personally am seeing a change with young modern parents who read a lot and expose themselves to more globalized thinking. They are educating their children to be more articulate. Even at the age of like 4 or 5, they ask the child, what do you think?
Yes.
Is it right or wrong? Why is it right or wrong? Was it good that you fell? What does it teach you? I mean, those are reflective questions. Sometimes you ask adults, this is very hard to answer.
Yeah.
But what it inculcates in young people is the ability to think and not having a fear of speaking up. Like, no, I think it's wrong because so and so and so.
Yeah.
Try saying that when we were younger or when you were younger, that don't forget
Yeah.
it. Culturally, we were not allowed to how do you say, speak up unless you really have thought through the
Yeah.
process. There was a lot more repercussions
Yeah.
to speaking up at that time. So I would say the culture is changing. So to
Yes.
get the group of parents who do realize this, But let's go back a little bit to say maybe 15, 20 years ago, the childhood time of the adults today.
Yeah.
During that period, I would say the kids then were not encouraged to speak up, number one. Number two, there was always a hierarchy. The older one is correct and the younger one is usually not. Instead of encouraging, well, I think maybe your thought process could use a little bit more facts. Very encouraging feedback. We didn't do so much of that. I'm seeing a bit more of it in urban areas now. Having said that, urban areas doesn't exactly encapsulate majority of our population. So when we actually run programs today, and we have run programs with urban poor communities or semi-rural communities, we do find, and these are local leaders, local young leaders. They represent their kawasan community council, whatever it is. And there is a lot of hesitation to speak. They have good ideas. They can articulate, but there is that sense of nerves. So I can tell you that from the ladies who have joined our program, we do have a session on public speaking. And they were so delighted after our training because it's quite quick. We give feedback, and how we give feedback is very it's a bit of American style. It's a sandwich theory. Sandwich is made of bread, meat, bread, for example. So we give positive feedback, the negative or areas for improvement, and then positive, because you have to remember you're dealing with people who are feeling vulnerable about the topic. So
absolutely great.
I remember that this is one specific lady that comes to mind. Maybe about a month after she graduated from our program, she sent a picture of her giving her first speech. She was holding the mic in our session. She was shaking. But outside, she spoke and she's like, "I'm so grateful to GPG because today I gave my first speech." And let me tell you, it's so gratifying. That's what our team lives for. The ability to help young women reach their potential. Some people might not find value in mentorship, like, oh, you need to look in policy.
Yes.
But yes, there are people looking at policy. That's what our ministries, and civil service is for. What do NGOs do? We go to the ground. That's our job, right?
Yes.
And for each person you are able to help, value add to their lives, I can assure you they are, especially when it comes to a woman, they're able to trickle that down even more within the community.
Absolutely.
They help another 10, and so on and so forth. Very much a snowflake effect, what we're going for.
Tell me more about the need for negotiation skills and what do the young women get out of it.
Sure. What they get out of it from our program is actually the understanding that there's a lot of preparatory work that needs to be done when going into negotiate, number one. Number two is also knowing your value. A lot of times, so Harvard Business Review quotes that 80% of women don't negotiate. I mean, those who do are really good at it. I mean, you don't want to mess with a woman.
Yes, absolutely.
She knows what she's doing. But 80% of them won't. So who's included in these numbers? It will be women who are negotiating for their first salary. The company will give X amount, obviously what is beneficial and profitable to the company. But sometimes the young woman or girl is a little bit shy to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not worth 1,005. I'm worth 2,005 because I've done my research, and in other companies, they are offering me this." And also the understanding that you need options, regardless of what you do, whether it's a business proposition, whether it's a job search, or whatever it is, always have options. Yes. Because when we have options, we step into the negotiating table far more confident. You stand straight, your back is straight, you speak more articulately because you know if you need to walk out of this negotiation because they're being unfair to your worth, you have a backup. Yes. And it's really important. So this is the homework and the framework that we encourage our girls to do. And it's a habit. You have to practice it. Even the best negotiators, they do this over time, they become better, they know the format in their mind.
If I may suggest, at some point, I think that you may want to consider introducing financial literacy to young women. It has become more and more important. I was watching a documentary in about schools in China of kids in school, in primary school, where they sort of like they create their own banks, even their own cafeteria in school, where they run a small coffee shop in their school, and they use their school currency, and they teach you how to run the budget, and they even tell the young kids of would you want to invest in the stock, okay, of school companies. But I think that more and more these are really important. But I agree with you that women definitely runs the budget much better. In every household, if it was left to the men, they can't do it. I surrender, I can't run it, okay.
They're the finance minister.
Absolutely. Okay. I know that in Japan, there's this tradition where the man, the working, the salary man, actually gives a part of their salary to the wife and say, okay, you run the budget. Okay. This is the amount that I will take for my drinking session. Okay. So, and we know that actually women makes very good financial people. Okay. Now we move on to a little bit of three, I would call it. Okay. Talking about men in general. Okay, now when we talk about empowerment, okay, men gets very scared. Wow, we have lost our power. Okay, at the end, it's actually only about upskilling. Okay, the women now. Men has got this problem of wanting to be dominant. Okay, and that women are always left at a disadvantage. No matter how well sometimes they negotiate for their salary and the terms and conditions of the paycheck, and their work, there's always this problem of men having this little unfair advantage where they say that, okay, can we just go for a drink after work to be with the guys? They talk about football, they talk about baseball, they enjoy themselves over a drink, this so-called brotherhood, and soon a networking is forged, okay? And if there's any potential female colleagues coming in, then they start to lobby for a particular post to say no, I don't think that she's the right person. She's not one of us, Our interest could be affected, and that, we look at the big picture, they look at the small picture, and that they scrutinize everything. We don't have time for that. If you speak up intelligently, you are assertive, okay, you are dominating. So you have this disadvantage which women has, okay. No matter how much that education that one has, there's always this little thing, this little barrier. Can I have your views on that?
You've touched on so many delicious points there, Dato'. So I want to start with what you said is essentially the boys' club. It is, I would say, an unfair advantage, because even when I was when I was being employed during my time, I saw how the boys' club happened. Say when they step out for a quick cigarette break, and a lot of deals are assigned or closed during that time. Or say when the boys go for Friday prayers together, so they end up having lunch together, right? And camaraderie is built. Or on the other end of the spectrum, if they go out to drink together, it's not often that women are able to, or even want to, sort of insert themselves in such environment because of misaligned values. I'm not saying one is right or wrong. That's a different topic. But I'm just saying that it gets a little bit tough for the woman to have an equal footing. So I would say that the onus is on both parties. Number one, the woman needs to. I remember asking one of the lady bosses whom I looked up to and was very successful in the industry I had worked in. I said, ma'am, a lot of deals are being made in areas where I'm not able to penetrate. What's your advice? And she said, you just keep working hard. You will get the deal, because I mean there's truth to that, because no one can deny someone who is there, present, and delivering. And on the other end of the spectrum, I think the onus also lies on the men. The man who is enlightened and aware of the disadvantage they are perpetuating. A man like you, for example, because you clearly have your eyes open to the situation. So I have actually come across some very enlightened gentlemen who are also corporate leaders who say, look, we're not discussing it this year because the ladies of the team are not able to be here. So the boss, the lead, if they're a man, they need to put their foot down and say, look, we've got to be fair. And the reason, a lot of what we're talking about, we're actually covering in this conference that
Yeah.
my partner, my team and I are setting up for next week, called the Rise Conference. I'll share a bit more about that shortly. But a lot of it is about the man understanding two parts. Number one is having women being part of these deals, having women being having them have equal footing in the career
Yeah.
if they're interested in it is actually good for the business, is good
Yes.
for the company. It doesn't take away from anyone's pie. The pie doesn't get smaller. We're looking to enrich and grow the pie in its entirety. And secondly, they need to understand that in their environment, they also have wives, they also have daughters, they also have sisters.
Correct.
So if they expect the women in their lives to be in environments which are good for them, they must be responsible to create that in their environment as well. You know, you can't say one thing and do the other.
Correct.
So at the end of the day, when you total everything up, it is actually good for the country.
Yes.
You are empowering 50% of your population. I mean, think about it from a human resource perspective, right? If you're
Yes.
in an office of, say, 100 people, 50 people, you're not using them to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
That's a complete waste of resource. So extrapolate that to the country.
Yeah.
It only makes sense for the entire entity, nation, country, family, if everyone is putting in their worth.
But things are really encouraging. I'm very optimistic. It helps when the survey shows that the consumers, the consumer decision makers for many products, okay, it is the women who decides. Now, when these surveys comes in and shows that look, the women is making decision on what to buy, what to use, then men react differently, because obviously the perception, the views of a women CEO or people at C-suite would make a lot of difference because they know the market, they understand who the customers are much better than the men. Okay, so things are moving around. Like even for example, like travelers, where to go on holiday. I think that many of the women who decides where to go on holidays, it's always the man says you decide, you decide. Okay, now once that happens, it goes on to other factors. So which is really good. Now talking about men. Okay, now I think I'm most qualified to say this, okay, without any disclaimer or caveat, okay. Now, the changes that's needed. I'm one of those people that rarely goes out after work. I stay at home, having to choose between your bro, okay, and your family. I chose to be with my family after work, and that I really do not see the necessity having to go out with the guys because I really think that it is really unproductive. Okay, I mean I don't believe them talking about it's going out with potential customers or clients. No, no, no. It's usually hanging out with the bros. Okay, it's really unproductive. Now, many men are very reluctant to say no to their friends, their male friends, because that they didn't want to be known as, oh, your wife tells you not to go out, right? You know,
Me.
yeah, Takubini, okay, you know, your chicken, you know. So because of that male ego, they had to they submit themselves to these demands and these pressures of going out. So that is something that I think that more and more males need to overcome that fear to say no, and that as a result, there are also very many young people, okay, um, who on the about to get married, okay, they had to do a deals, okay, to with their spouses or potential wife to say that okay, once I get married, you know, can I spend 30% of my time on Friday night with my guys, you know, that so you come up this question. I mean, like, look, you remain a small boy. If you have decided to commit yourself to your wife, okay, why would you still want to commit yourself for 30 of the time to your bro, which is actually it's not really essential. It's really pointless. So you know, like, I'd be the first to admit that many men are basically boys who have not grown up. Okay, but that needs to be changed. Not many would agree with me. I'm sure that once they hear me, I will have to check out my comments, the comments box.
Kena, Dato'.
Sure, kenal, sure, kau.
Ah, that's funny.
Okay, I'll talk about the values of upbringing. Obviously, that upbringing your peers are very important to shape your whole self. Okay, how did what was your upbringing like in terms of shaping your worldview?
Sure. I have a very, I come from a family with very strong personalities. All of us, the
Yeah.
men and the women. Actually, the women in my family are very strong-willed and uh, well opinionated, I would say. But we also come from a family that have very strong shared values about work and family first. So I grew up with a highly empowered working mother. So for me, I remember recently I had a conversation. Someone said to me, I'm not going to profess to being the best cook in the world. I can cook,
Okay.
but it's not my profession. It's not something that I say, oh, I'm going to. This is my 24/7. It's not my top skill. I wouldn't say my top three. And someone said, oh, what is your worth? Even if you have all the degrees in the world, if you cannot cook. And I said, actually, the point of the matter is that if we have food on the table, whether it's organized by husband or wife, that's what matters.
Mm,
Today's day and age, the woman and the man brings the money in. The
yes.
woman and the man impacts the world over with our thoughts, opinions, and our activities and outcome. It is very poor reflection of someone's values if they only consider a woman worth something by her marital status, the number of kids she has mothered, and whether she's able to cook. I mean, we're not in 1950s anymore. If anyone still thinks that, should probably revert back to that era.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, the world has changed,
Yes.
and people really need to progress to being present and
Yes.
owning what we can and cannot do. It's not an issue.
Yeah.
Having said all of this, I often sometimes this gender equality conversation is misunderstood. Many women who might not be interested in leadership or this whole full push for ambition gets a little bit upset.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say upfront here that this conversation is important for those who are actively ambitious looking for leadership positions. One. Number two, who want to make policies a little bit more fair and equal and just for the genders. So this is not a conversation about talking about women who want to stay at home and cook. If you want to do that, well and good. We're
Yeah.
talking about women who want to do the opposite, but have systemic and cultural obstacles to get there.
Okay, I want to talk about policies. Okay, now, we know that in the real world, the politicians, the ministers, would need a lot of input from NGOs, from the civil servants, from the secretary general, and those that work in the office. Okay, politicians being politicians. I've been in this line for 36 years. They will really want a proposal on their table. Okay, with all the arguments and all the inputs, well researched paper, so that if they said yes, this is wonderful, and of course they will use that, and it will become their policy, which is well and fine. Okay, now so they get the credit as the minister. Now so as far as girls for girls are concerned, how do you push and for one of a better word agenda? Okay, that might be a how do you push your input to a certain particular ministry, proposals that would benefit the women?
Sure. So our pillar actually in Girls for Girls is really on the groundwork. Our pillar is about mentoring the young, providing inspiration and therefore materials to enlighten and upskill them. And third is about networking. So the actual work that we do is not about policy.
I see. Okay.
However, however, um, some of the programs that we are done, our inaugural conference that's coming up next week is actually a program under Jabatan Pembangunan Wanita,
Okay.
under the Ministry of Women. So at the end of the conference, based on the data and the research and the conversations and the key points that have come up, as well as the detailed leadership program that we're instituting for 12 weeks after that, the data that we do get from there, we will be submitting it to the ministry. And therefore, we hope in in our way as an NGO, we're able to contribute to the ministry. We don't claim to be a platform pushing for policy yet,
Okay, all right. Okay.
but in our capacity, in the programs that we do, we will be submitting a report, and we hope that our feedback will be taken into consideration.
Okay, Izzana, tell me more about your Future Female Leaders Forum that's coming up.
Sure. So we have a very interesting forum coming up. I want to give a shout out to my partner and the team who are working tirelessly to put this together. It's called RISE 2021 Future Female Leaders Forum. We are a forum that targets to inspire, ignite, and invigorate the minds of young women and girls, and for them to pursue their leadership positions because we believe in their voices and their ability to change the world. We also have a very interesting component for this conference where a sizable amount of speakers, content, and audience will be men. Because just to wrap back all the things we were talking about, Dato,
Yeah.
gender equality journey is not just a woman's job.
Yes.
It is not also a soft issue. It is a very hard issue because it affects the country's economics, number one. Number two, like I mentioned earlier, you're talking about not fully utilizing the value and the power of 50% of the population, which is not very smart. And number three, it is about ensuring that your family, everyone, the men, the women, the children, the siblings, extended family, we're all valuable contributors to the country. Our goal is for our nations to rise also to its full potential, and that starts with us individually. So it's happening on the 13th. If anyone's interested, and I hope you are, it is open and free. Head on to www.risemalaysia.com, R-I-S-E Malaysia, one word.com. It's happening from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. and we have got some seriously interesting topics. Things from your rights when dealing with sexual harassment, to womenomics, to how to raise confident men in an equitable world. That's what we spoke about this. Maybe
Yes.
share the link with some of your friends.
Yeah.
We're also talking about, we've got some amazing speakers. Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy from Indonesia, our Minister, YB Datuk Nancy Shukri, Minister of Tourism. We've got the former Secretary of State from France, Madame Brune Poisson. We've got Tan Sri Jamila. We've got Professor Muhammad Yunus, the founder of Grameen Bank. We have got Shira Miller, who used to be part of President Barack Obama's presidential campaign. We have got Yang Amat Mulia Tengku Puteri Iman, the founder of Project Green Ribbon group. So many amazing topics. I mean, we've got 36 wonderful speakers. I take up the entire hour just to share with you, but it's open, it's free. We're going to have a free-flowing conversation, and we've really, I would say, I'm very pleased with the content we've put together. It is open and free, and our true intention in this is to help contribute to a mindset shift for men and women towards gender equality. Because I was having a very interesting conversation that I was talking about patriarchy to someone, and for some reason, this person was triggered. And I had to sort of mention, as calm as I could, that patriarchy doesn't refer to men. Patriarchy actually refers to the system that prohibits growth for women. And whilst men can get behind patriarchy, you'd be surprised the amount of women who get behind patriarchy too. Conversely, this gender equal women empowerment conversation is not reserved for just women and girls. It's also for men like you who so clearly believe and passionately want to do something about it. It's about creating a better environment for the people in your house, your daughter Sonia, for example. And so in our conference, we try to personalize this journey. We get young people to learn how to mentor hunt early. And also, why is this important for our male allies and girl dads? We try to bring in the economic conversation, but also the personal conversation, and so many more. So I really encourage you. It's on a Saturday. It's virtual. You don't have to go anywhere. It's free. Switch it on. Listen into the so many great conversations that's about to happen. And I am so hopeful, as I know my team is, that we're able to contribute to the growth of this journey, the women empowerment journey.
So Izzana, after the presentation of all these ideas, is there a what do you call it, a action program so that it would not be a talk shop?
Sure. So that's actually exactly what was our thought process when creating the conference. We wanted to ensure that there's a long-lasting impact for those who attend. So our one-day conference is open for all and unlimited in numbers. And those who, during registration and application, also apply for what we call a Phase B, our guided action plan, our guided action program, and can commit to 12 weeks and pass through the selection criteria, they will be treated to a 12-week leadership program spearheaded by My Prodigy Global and Girl Guides World Association, where they spend time listening to speakers catered to themselves, number one. Number two, they are facilitated by Girl Guides World Association, so international facilitators coming in to help them. And number three, content, psychological behavioral content crafted for participants, selected 100 people to understand their leadership strengths and weaknesses, how best they work with other people. Because Dato, I mean,
Yes.
a leader is defined by the followers they have, right? If you are you have no follower, you're not exactly a leader, lah. So the essence of being a leader is how best do you work with other people.
Correct.
And if you don't know this, if you're not fully aware, okay, actually I'm an introvert. And actually, for example, not me personally, but I really derive my energy from people. But let's say the participant is an introvert, but they're also a leader. There are introverted leaders.
Correct.
So if young people don't start out understanding how can they best maximize their personality, or however we've described it in the report, how best they work with other people, they might think they're not suitable for leadership. So we want to maximize. Here it's about rising to full potential, maximizing value, contributing our worth. That's the big mindset game we're trying to achieve here.
Yes. I'm really truly excited. I think you made a very good salesman. Okay, you've convinced me that I must send a
absolutely salesperson.
I must spend my Saturday, right? It's a Saturday, right?
It's Saturday. You can relax in
yes,
your
okay.
Whatever it is, just log in, listen.
I'm sure that it'll be a productive Saturday, and that I will spread the news around. Okay, in support of your Girls for Girls and of course Rise. Okay, now please thank you Izzana for really spending time with me tonight. Okay, it's really a very what I call it, an enriching experience for me to listen to what you're doing and the kind of inspiration that you want to instill and the values you want to inculcate among our young people. I think at the end of the day, it's about giving opportunity. And I think that you are heading towards the right direction. And I wish you all the best in what you do. And that before we do that, it's right behind me. Okay, please. Okay. We can do it. Izzana can do it. Yes. Okay.
Thank you for me. The pleasure's all mine tonight. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Please like, share, and follow Izzana and RealChunWai. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dato.
Bye.